5 years. That's how long Jason Carter believed his wife was dead. The crash was brutal. The cops said there was no way anyone could have survived. They never found a body, just pieces of the car, her purse, a single shoe. He buried an empty casket, moved on, or tried to. Then one Tuesday night, flipping through the news, he saw her, clear as day, same smile, same laugh. But her name wasn't Sarah anymore. It was Emily, and she wasn't alone. There was a man beside her, some corporate guy with a Rolex and a too-white smile. They were at a charity gala, smiling, laughing, like none of it ever happened. Jason froze, because that's when he noticed the ring on her finger, the same one he gave her, the one she was supposedly buried with. And then it hit him. She wasn't dead. She'd never been dead. Which meant everything, the crash, the funeral, the last 5 years of his life, was a lie. So Jason did the only thing he could think of. He picked up his phone, dialed a number he hadn't used in years, and when the voice on the other end answered, he said just 2 words: "Find her." This is how revenge begins. 3 years before the crash, Jason Carter met Elena at a coffee shop in Chicago. She spilled her latte on his shirt. He laughed instead of getting mad. She offered to pay for dry cleaning. He said no, just buy him dinner instead. 6 months later, they were married. It was the kind of relationship people envied. Weekends in Napa Valley, Christmas mornings by the fireplace, birthdays with surprise trips. Once, Elena flew them to Hawaii just because Jason had a bad week at work. She remembered everything. His favorite beer, the way he took his coffee, the song they danced to at their wedding. Jason was careful with money. Grew up middle class, saved every dollar. But Elena? She spent like it didn't matter. Designer bags, first-class upgrades. "Life's short," she'd say. And Jason, head over heels, just smiled and handed over his credit card. Then came the little things. A phone call she'd end quickly when he walked in. A name she slipped up on, calling her sister Jessica once, even though her family tree said her sister's name was Lauren. When Jason asked, Elena laughed it off. "You know I'm bad with names." The night before the crash, Elena came home late. Jason was already in bed. She kissed his forehead, her lips cold from the winter air. "Love you," she whispered. The next morning, she was gone before he woke up. By noon, the police were at his door. The officer's words played in his head for years. Single-car accident, no skid marks, almost like she didn't try to stop it. They handed him a plastic bag with her things. Wallet, phone, a necklace he'd never seen before. The funeral was packed. Her sister Jessica sobbed the loudest. For 5 years, Jason replayed that last kiss. The last "I love you." The last lie. And then, he saw her on TV. Jason didn't sleep that night. He sat at his kitchen table, the glow of his laptop cutting through the dark. He typed in Elena's name, then her birthday, then the town she said she grew up in. Nothing matched. Not the schools, not the yearbook photos, not even the obituaries for her so-called parents. He called the number Elena's sister Jessica had given him after the funeral, disconnected. He drove to the apartment she'd listed as her address. A stranger answered. Never heard of her. Then he remembered the necklace, the one in the evidence bag he'd never seen Elena wear. He dug it out of the box where he kept her things. Tiny engraving on the back. Property of St. Mary's Hospital. He called them. Asked about patient records under Elena's name. Silence on the line, then, "Sir, we have no one by that name here." Jason's hands shook as he pulled up their wedding license. Same thing. The document looked real. The county clerk's office had no record of it ever being filed. That's when he went to the bank, pulled statements from their joint account, scrolled back to the month before they met. A $15,000 deposit from an unknown sender. The memo line read, "For services rendered." Jason sat in his car outside the bank, staring at his phone. He pulled up the news clip again, zoomed in on Elena. No, not Elena. Whatever her name was now. There, on her wrist, was the same scar she got making dinner for him 3 years ago. The woman was real, the life wasn't. He scrolled to a new contact, hired the only person who could help now. The PI's message came back fast. "Meet me tomorrow. Don't tell anyone you're coming." Jason didn't know it yet, but the truth was worse than a cheating wife. Worse than a stolen identity. What came next would make him wish he'd never turned on the news that night. Jason knew he couldn't just walk up to her. Not after what she'd done. Not after what he now knew. So he did the one thing that would make her come to him. He disappeared. It started with a late-night drive to Lake Michigan. He left his car running by the pier, door open, wallet on the seat. A single set of footprints led to the water's edge. Then nothing. Just waves. Just dark. The police found his phone half a mile down the shore. No note. No sign of struggle. Just a man who'd apparently decided to walk into the lake and never come back. The local news ran the story for 2 days. Missing businessman. Possible suicide. Tragic circumstances. Jason watched it all from a motel room across state lines. Cheap blinds. Stained carpet. A burner phone in his hand. He waited 3 days. Then he made the call. The PI answered on the first ring. "It's done," Jason said. "She'll hear about it?" "Already has," the PI replied. "Your obituary's scheduled for tomorrow's paper." Jason hung up, turned on the TV, flipped to the local news. There she was, Emily now, at some charity event in a black dress, smiling, laughing, like nothing was wrong, like no one was missing. Then the camera panned to her husband, the CEO, the man who'd gotten everything Jason had lost. And that's when Jason saw it, the way the man's hand lingered on her back, the way she stiffened just slightly when he touched her, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes. Jason leaned forward, rewound the footage, watched it again, and again, until he was sure. She wasn't happy. She was trapped, just like he'd been. The next morning, the PI called back. "She took the bait, just got a call from my guy at the courthouse. Your widow filed for probate this morning." Jason smiled for the first time in weeks. Good, then let's see how she likes being the one left behind. He hung up, pulled out a second burner phone, dialed a number he'd memorized from the PI's files. The phone rang twice. Then a woman's voice answered. "Hello?" Jason took a breath, said the name he'd practiced in the mirror 100 times. "Emily, we need to talk." The coffee shop was empty, except for one woman in the corner. Lydia. She wore sunglasses despite the overcast sky. Hands wrapped tight around her cup like she was afraid it might disappear. Jason sat down across from her. Didn't say a word, just slid the photo across the table. The one from the PI's file. Lydia in a hospital gown, holding a newborn. Elena, calling herself Rachel then, standing beside her, smiling like a friend. Lydia took one look and pushed it away. "That was 8 years ago," she said. "Back when I still trusted people." She pulled out her own photo, a school picture of a little boy with gap teeth. "This is my son. The last time I saw him, he was 4. Jason studied the boy's face, saw the same nose as Lydia's, the same stubborn chin. "What happened?" Lydia's voice didn't shake. "Rachel, Elena, whatever you want to call her, she was my postpartum nurse. Said she'd help when my ex took me to court. Testified that she'd seen me shaking the baby. That part was true. I was exhausted, scared, but I never hurt him." She tapped the photo. "The judge believed her. Gave full custody to my ex. 2 months later, he moved to Oregon, changed his number, disappeared." Jason pulled out his phone, showed Lydia the news clip of Elena at the gala. "She's using the same playbook, different lies, same destruction." Lydia didn't blink. "I've been tracking her for years. She always picks men with something to lose. You had money, I had a child. The guy in Ohio, he had a business. The pattern's simple. She finds your weak spot, then she breaks it." A bus rumbled by outside, the windows rattled. Jason waited for the noise to fade. "Why come to me?" Lydia finally took off her sunglasses. The circles under her eyes were dark as bruises. "Because you're the first one she didn't kill. That means you're the first one who can put her away." She pulled a flash drive from her pocket. 5 years of bank records, fake IDs, proof she's done this before. Enough to send her away for good. Jason turned the drive over in his hands. "What do you want?" Lydia's smile was all teeth. "Same as you. To watch her lose everything." They sat there as the coffee grew cold. 2 strangers with one purpose. The plan formed without words. Simple, clean, Brutal. By the time they left, the rain had started. Neither one bothered with an umbrella. The gala was in full swing when Jason walked in. Black tie, no invitation, no hesitation. The security guard at the door barely glanced at him, just another rich guy in a tuxedo. The ballroom glittered. Ice sculptures, champagne towers, a string quartet playing something expensive. Jason moved through the crowd like a shadow, eyes locked on Elena across the room. Emily now, on the arm of her CEO husband, laughing at some joke Jason couldn't hear. He waited until the speeches started, until all eyes were on the stage. Then he stepped up to the AV booth, flashed a $100 bill, said he needed to make an announcement. The tech guy took the money and handed over the mic. Feedback screeched through the speakers. The music stopped. Every head turned. Jason didn't introduce himself, just pressed play on his phone. A recording filled the room, Elena's voice clear as day. The trick is making them trust you. Once they do, the rest is easy. Then, I give it 6 months. He'll sign over everything without reading it. They always do. The room froze. Elena's face went white. Her husband turned to her, slow, like he was seeing her for the first time. Jason kept going. That's from 3 years ago, right before your car accident, right before you stole $200,000 and disappeared. Emily, stepped forward. This is insane, she said. I don't know this man. But her hands were shaking. Jason pulled out his phone again, projected a photo onto the screens. Elena in a hospital bed, smiling at the camera. Same scar on her wrist. Same woman, different name. The CEO grabbed her arm. What the hell is this? She yanked free. He's lying. But the crowd was already murmuring. Phones were out, recording. Jason didn't smile, didn't blink, just played the next clip. Elena, 2 nights ago, on the phone with someone Jason had paid to call her. Relax, her voice said. The Jason problem is handled. He won't be a problem much longer. That's when the CEO let go of her arm like she'd burned him. That's when the first camera flash went off. That's when Emily, whoever she was, looked at Jason and really saw him for the first time in 5 years. And for the first time since this all started, Jason saw something real in her eyes. Fear. The room erupted, voices shouting. Someone called security. Elena turned and ran, straight into Lydia, standing calm by the exit, holding a single sheet of paper, a custody order, with a name at the top that matched the one on Elena's first fake ID. Jason didn't follow her, just watched as the life she'd built collapsed in real time, exactly like his had. Jason didn't wait for morning. That night, from a motel room 30 miles outside the city, he uploaded everything. Bank records, voice recordings, the PI's entire file. He sent it to every news outlet in the state, tagged the FBI, included a list of names, all the men she'd targeted, all the lives she'd ruined. Then he pressed send and watched as the first outlet picked it up. Then the second. By sunrise, it was everywhere. The FBI moved fast. They froze Elena's accounts before she could run, pulled her husband in for questioning, found the safe deposit box under her alias with 3 different passports and nearly $500,000 in cash. The news vans camped outside her building. Reporters shouted questions every time the door opened. Her face was on every screen in the country by lunchtime. Jason watched it all unfold from a diner off the highway, scrolling through the updates on his phone, drinking coffee that tasted like burnt tires. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just checked each development off his mental list. Assets seized, husband cooperating, warrants issued. By day 3, they'd connected her to cases in 4 different states. By day 5, the U.S. Marshals were involved. Lydia called him that evening. They found my son, she said. Voice flat, no joy, just fact. Turns out her real name was Carla. She had a record in Florida from before she started doing this. Jason didn't ask how Lydia got that information. Some doors, once opened, don't close clean. The last piece came a week later. A reporter from the Chicago Tribune tracked Jason down, wanted his side of the story. Jason gave them one quote. I just wanted the truth to be seen. Then he got in his car and drove west. Didn't look back. Didn't check the news when the trial started 6 months later. Didn't react when the sentence came down. 25 years, no parole. Somewhere along Route 66, he pulled over at a rest stop, took out his wallet, removed the last photo he had of Elena, the real one, from their wedding day, studied it for a long minute, then lit a match and watched it burn to ash in the desert wind. The fire department would later determine the cause of Elena's husband's mansion burning to the ground that same night was electrical. Faulty wiring in the walls. Nothing suspicious, just one of those things that happens sometimes. Jason was in Nevada by then, starting over. Same as her victims had to, same as he'd done once before. The money came back slowly. Wires from frozen accounts, checks from insurance companies, court-ordered restitution that would take years to fully collect. Jason's lawyer handled most of it, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd seen worse and charged accordingly. She left him a voicemail when the final settlement cleared. Jason deleted it without listening to the end. He rented an apartment in Phoenix, 1 bedroom, no view, paid 6 months up front in cash. The leasing agent asked what brought him to Arizona. Jason said the weather. The truth was, he'd closed his eyes on a map and put his finger down halfway across the country. The nightmares came less often now, only twice a week instead of every night. Always the same, Elena's laugh, the smell of burning rubber, the way the police detective had looked at him when they pulled the car wreckage from the lake, empty, just like hers had been. His phone buzzed one Tuesday morning, a notification from the Victim Compensation Fund, another deposit. Jason transferred it immediately to an account he'd set up, one that automatically split the money between Lydia and the other victims he'd tracked down. He kept none of it. Couldn't stand the thought of that money touching his hands again. Lydia texted him a photo 3 weeks later, her son's first day of 3rd grade, gap-toothed smile, backpack too big for his small frame. Jason didn't reply, just saved the picture to a folder marked closed and turned his phone face down on the counter. The local news ran a segment about Elena's sentencing. Jason caught it while getting coffee at a diner. They used his wedding photo as the backdrop. He watched until the commercial break, left a 20 on the table, never went back to that diner again. At night, he'd walk the neighborhood, past identical stucco houses with identical porch lights. Sometimes he'd see couples through windows, watching TV, arguing over dishes, living normal lives. He'd wonder which ones were real, which were just waiting to crack open. His lawyer called one last time in October. The house was finally sold. The last of the assets liquidated. Jason could come home if he wanted. There was nothing left to run from. Jason thanked her, hung up, packed a single bag, left the apartment key on the counter. The lease had 6 weeks remaining. He didn't care. The desert swallowed his taillights whole. 6 months later, a late-night news broadcast flickered in an empty motel room. The sound was off, but the headline crawled across the bottom of the screen. Local man reports wife missing. A grainy photo appeared, a woman with dark hair smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Lydia Chen, last seen Tuesday." The camera cut to a press conference. A man in his 40s, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed. He gripped the microphone too tight. "She wouldn't just leave," he said, voice cracking. "Not without our son." Behind him stood a boy, maybe 8 years old, clutching a stuffed dinosaur. Same gap-toothed smile as the photo Jason had saved. The news cut to file footage. Lydia outside the courthouse months earlier, holding paperwork. The Chiron read, "Child custody case resolved in mother's favor." Then another photo, Lydia and her son at the zoo, smiling, normal, happy. The broadcast switched to a detective at a podium. "We're exploring all possibilities," he said, "including the chance Ms. Chen left voluntarily." The camera panned to an evidence bag on the table, a woman's watch, a set of car keys, a wedding band. The motel room stayed dark. The TV clicked off. A shadow moved across the wall, a man standing by the window, looking out at the parking lot. In his hand, a phone. On the screen, a text message. "It's done." The reply came seconds later. "She won't be found." The man, Jason, slid the phone into his pocket, pulled a key from his jacket. Not a motel key, older, heavier, the kind that opens storage units or safety deposit boxes. Outside, a car started. Headlights swept across the curtain. Then darkness again. The bed was made. No luggage. No trace anyone had ever been there at all. Jason got what he wanted. The truth came out. The money returned. The woman who destroyed his life sits in a cell. But somewhere out there, a little boy waits for a mother who won't be coming home. A man stares at an empty closet where his wife's clothes used to hang. And a phone lights up with 2 words. It's done. So tell me, when the scales balance, which side matters more? The man who lost everything and fought to get it back, or the ones who never saw him coming? Was this justice, or just another kind of revenge? Hit pause, think about it, then let me know. Type justice if Jason did what needed to be done, or karma if you think he became exactly what he hated. And remember, the best stories don't give you answers. They make you question which side you'd choose. This is where we wrap up today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on our next upload. Thank you.